Hi, this is Stephen from Owner Disown. Now, HID Evolution were kind enough to supply me with what I think is MSI's best looking laptop to date. It is the GS65 8RE Stealth Thin. On their website, there are two models, all with 6-core i7 8758 CPUs. Now, my model is the -051 for $2,100. It has a GTX 1060, a 15.6-inch 144Hz 7ms wide view 1080p panel, 16GB of dual channel DDR4 2666 MHz RAM, a 512GB M.2 PCI Express SSD, and a 1TB hard drive. For Wi-Fi, it is the Intel 9560 and it is great. For $2,500, you can get a Max-Q GTX 1070, 32GB of RAM, 512GB SSD, and for $3,000, you can up that to two 512GB SSDs. Now, if you think about saving some cash doing this yourself, please note, because upgrades aren't as simple on this one. Once you have removed the 15 screws to remove the back panel, you will see that the motherboard has been reversed. So access to the M.2 and the RAM slots are on the other side. I don't know what the benefit or the advantage of doing this is, but I like to upgrade stuff. And if you aren't into tinkering, I really suggest that you configure it the way you want it. And it's always best to plan ahead. Games take up a ton of storage space these days, so configure it accordingly. The GS65 is really quite thin and light, so cooling these high-end components takes some engineering. You will notice that the rear feet create a larger air gap for incoming cool air. Also, there are 3 fans. 2 fans are for the GPU and 1 for the CPU. The fans have plenty of blades, which MSI says that it increases the air pressure by at least 45%. Cool air is sucked in from a large grill underneath and also through the top of the keyboard, which is another great design choice. Now, hot air is expelled mainly out of the back, but also through some exhaust vents at the sides, which for such a small laptop, I think it is great, because many 17-inch laptops don't even do this. In this thermal image, you can see the green areas where the fans are drawing in cool air, but the upper keyboard is warm at 42 degrees. The center of the keyboard runs at about 40 degrees, but the touchpad area is nice and cool. Underneath is about 52 degrees, and you can see the warm air being pushed out of the back. Now, although you can't see the warm air coming out of the sides, you can actually feel it to touch, but it's just not as strong. Using the Dragon Center software, you can set the fan to auto, to basic, which allows you to set it at a set percentage. Advanced lets you create your own custom profile, or Cooler Boost fan, which is the max fan. Now, at idle, the auto fan is silent, so if you want to use the laptop in a work setting, this is ideal. Under load, the auto fan cranks up to 37 decibels, which is still reasonably quiet, but turn on the Cooler Boost fan, you can expect 51 decibels, so people in the same room are going to actually hear you for sure. Now, for those who like to game using the speakers, they are located near the front, but underneath. They are pretty decent, producing about 80 decibels. And, they can be heard even over the Cooler Boost fan. As I mentioned earlier, I think this is the best looking MSI laptop to date. For a while now, we have had the brushed aluminium lid and deck area, with ABS plastic underneath. Here we have an all aluminium build, anodized charcoal black with some lovely gold accents. The gold MSI emblem on the lid no longer lights up, but it does catch the light nicely, and it makes it more suitable for those looking for a more subtle design. The rear exhaust area is also nicely patterned. The taper on the lid is also gold. All in all, it is a huge improvement. The only letdown being is where the base connects to the rest of the chassis. There is a definite overlap, and there's a gap around the sides. The sacrifice about having side vents is that there is no SD card reader. On the left hand side, you will see a gold embossed hinge, a Kensington lock, the gold trim GPU heat exhaust, Ethernet port, 2 USB 3 ports, and a separate headphone and mic jack. On the right hand side, there is a third USB 3 port, a Thunderbolt 3 port, mini display, and HDMI ports, which are good for 4K at 60 Hz, and a centrally located power port and the side CPU exhaust. One advantage of the Aero 15 V8 is that they include a UHS 2 SD card reader, which is excellent for those with cameras. The screen is vibrant and clear. It's good for both gamers and content producers. Its colour accuracy is slightly better than that of the new Aero 15 V8 and worlds better than the Dell G7. Brightness wise, it splits the two. Its full brightness being the same as the Aero 15 at 75%. Still, it is still visible outdoors and the screen is not glossy, so it's more than adequate. The panel is made by AUO and is 144 Hz with a 7 millisecond response time. And in my ghosting test, it performed perhaps slightly below the 120 Hz Sage NP9877, but it is totally fine. Also, even though the panel is thin, it's reasonably stiff too. I noticed a bit of backlight bleed at the top and bottom. Nothing to worry about, but you can pay HID Evolution $100 and they will view it and send one with minimal bleed. The bezels are slightly narrow, yet MSI still managed to have the webcam up top. It is 720p and it's fine for video chats. The SteelSeries keyboard is RGB backlit and I really do like it. It is fully customized via the software. Two modes may appeal to gamers. One is the ability to use engine apps to configure lighting on a particular game, such as Counter-Strike Go. The second is gaming mode. This optimizes the system performance and lighting settings to give you the best experience. The Synaptics trackpad is made of glass and works well. I like the gold trim around the edge. The mouse buttons are integrated and they are okay. The power button is centrally located. Now unfortunately it doesn't double as a fingerprint reader, nor is there Windows Hello. Pressing the FN and G key brings up the Dragger Center utility. The first page shows you the CPU, GPU and memory usage as well as the fan speeds. The next screen allows you to configure the power options such as Turbo, Sport, Comfort and Eco, as well as the fan control options mentioned earlier. You can use a mobile app to monitor your settings on a phone and perform battery calibration. The 80 watt-hour battery provides just over 7¼ hours of runtime, which I think is pretty decent. Now one advantage that you get should you configure it from HID Evolution is that they will undervolt it 18 millivolts out of the box. Now I have been calling for manufacturers to do this from day one. Now I did push it to 144 millivolts, but I didn't see any further decrease in temperatures. HID Evolution also repasted my unit with liquid metal, so please bear that in mind as I go through the performance and the temperatures. On my GT63 turbo mode, overclocked the GPU, and on the GS65 it did absolutely nothing. As you can see during the gaming, the GPU averaged about 1865 MHz regardless of mode, and the CPU averaged the same 3900 MHz. I think what you have to take home from this, using the auto fan, the CPU averaged 83 degrees and the GPU 78 degrees. And remember, the auto fan produces only 37 decibels, and you can get an average of over 60 FPS at 1080p max settings. What more can you ask for? I did use MSI Afterburner and got a great 205 MHz overclock, which led to a boost of 2076 MHz, and that is simply fantastic. Performance-wise, there was no difference between the auto fan or the cooler boost fan, but those extra decibels did bring temperatures down by about 9 degrees. Looking at non-gaming temperatures, the CPU averaged 87 degrees at stock and 81 degrees with the cooler boost fan. Note that this was measured during long tests, such as doing a video render, where you actually see the average CPU clocks drop from 3900 you see in gaming to 3360 MHz. I really did enjoy gaming on it though. The 144 Hz screen and decent frame rates meant I saw no tearing, so I didn't miss G-Sync either. The only thing it didn't do was stop me being killed in PUBG. Look at TimeSpy. Stock score of 3,963 points beats out the Aero 15 W8 and Dell G7. But look at that overclock. 4,310 points is not that far away from a GTX 1070 Max Q. PUBG 1080p max settings sees just short of 60 FPS with a 5% gain when overclocked. Rise of the Tomb Raider sees a similar performance to the Aero 15 and Dell G7 with a slight advantage when overclocked. Far Cry 5 saw huge gains though. Minimum frame rates of 59 was the same as the average frame rate on the other systems. 69 FPS when overclocked, and this is at ultra settings. We see much the same in Battlefield 1 ultra settings. minimum of 51 and average of 62 FPS, rising to 66 when overclocked. This is one solid performer. Now Doom Ultra settings 1080p at stock, we get 115 FPS and 122 when overclocked. Now look at the Asus G752 VS with the GTX 1070, 118 FPS at stock and only 10% faster when overclocked. Finally, Rainbow Six Siege, we see a 5 to 10% improvement over competing GTX 1060 machines. Minimum frame rates are up by at least 20%. In non-gaming tests, the GS65 also performed well. With the Adobe Premiere Pro, it did the render 3 minutes faster than the Dell G7. And as you may know, I was able to boost the i7-8750H CPU in other machines, but it looks like the GS65 has already had this done out of the box. Now whether this was HID Evolution tricking performance or not, I don't know, but I'm all for having max performance available. If you use the GPU to render the video, the GTX 1060 in the GS65 also did it 20 seconds faster than the Aero 15W V8. You can also see in the Cinebench test that the CPU is already close to max performance, getting 1207 points at stock. So to conclude, I very much like the GS65 Stealth. It performs fast, cool and quiet. And it also looks sleek, and it has very much improved build quality. The speakers and the screen are good and it is very portable. Now, is it better than the Aero 15W V8 I reviewed earlier? Now, if the Aero had Windows Precision trackpad, I would forgo a bit of performance for the ability to easy upgrade and have a fast SD card reader. I really don't know why the motherboard in this is upside down, and I really recommend that you have it configured as you like it, as getting in and doing it yourself is going to be daunting for some people. Now, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.